There are no throwaway people. Good evening. My name is Wes Tillett. I work at Lafayette Urban Ministry. There are no throwaway people is a line from the film we watched here last November. The film was called Beyond the Bridge. That movie line is also a profound and compelling truth that no person is worthless. Every person has dignity and deserves to have their basic human needs met. Here's another line from Beyond the Bridge. Homelessness is solvable, but only when communities act together with focus and shared responsibility. Take the first part of that sentence in for just a minute. Homelessness is solvable. I don't know about you, but I need to hear and believe that. The Beyond the Bridge film highlights what can be done when communities work together to solve homelessness. Let's watch a brief clip.
What would it take for, an elected official to take up this cause and champion it?
Balls.
I'm James Mathey. I'm the housing administrator for the Milwaukee County Housing Division. The question was raised out of a county executive, what would it take to do something big about homelessness? So we put together a plan to end chronic homelessness in 3 years. We needed a lot of partners. So the first partner we were obviously going to reach out to was the city of Milwaukee.
We've had a very, very strong partnership with the county, Milwaukee County, and we work closely with the police department.
First role I play is supporting our community prosecutor.
If there was some issue that a person was facing in the criminal justice system, what we were engaging with the police department on was how to resolve that matter without rearresting somebody again.
Warrants make it very difficult to get housing, so we clear up their warrants, help them get driver's licenses.
We wanted to do this plan, and we needed business endorsement.
We are doing everything we can to have our city shine because, candidly, we're selling our city.
First thing that crosses a business person's mind is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my customers. My reaction 5 years ago would have been to call the police. But once I did get a better understanding, it's quite magical. I really wanted to be involved.
Back in 2011, we had the 6th largest homeless population in the country, with on any given night over 8,500 individuals experiencing homelessness. And the mayor at the time said something has to change.
Everybody sat in a room together to figure out what we were doing wrong and what we needed to do to fix it.
Enforcement does not reduce homelessness. No city has been able to reduce homelessness just through enforcement alone. And that's why we're so focused on housing here.
It's a word. It's a word.
It's my first apartment.
Ever?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm 38 and it's my first apartment.
Homeless people are not the scary things, the boogeyman that's under the bed or what goes bump in the night. They're not. They have had a circumstance happen that has put their life on a trajectory where they feel lower than dirt. So you don't have to do anything to make us feel any worse.
Let me tell you something. When I started working, I didn't want to go buy drugs. I wanted to get me some curtains. I wanted to get me a better TV and toothpaste and some cologne. I wanted to get me some shirts and some socks.
You always have these competing interests that all want to end homelessness, and they never figure out a way to do it together.
There are cities where every council member is going in a different direction. Council president that's going in one direction from even the mayor. And the city's going in a different direction than the county. And everybody's going in a different direction from their Chamber of Commerce, and in a different direction from their police, and a different direction from their homeless service agencies.
And if they're going to continue to operate that way, they're not going to get anywhere.
So the question should be more along the lines of what kind of collaborations are you putting together?
Yes. What can we do together?
The mayor, who's ever the head, was the mayor, was the governor, you name it, the county judge, has to be at the table, engaged in the conversation, understanding what the different issues are. And quite frankly, the mayor has to be out there in the field.
So what can we do together? It's a great question. Can we solve homelessness here in Greater Lafayette? Can we follow the lead of others who have found solutions to homelessness in their communities? If we keep taking steps, we can get there, and here are a couple of next steps that we would like to take. First, James Matthey, who was featured in this video, he's the visionary behind Milwaukee's success in addressing homelessness. He's been in conversation with us, with the Greater Lafayette Beyond the Bridge Steering Committee, and James is planning to come here to Lafayette soon for a consultation visit with local government and business leaders, with service providers, and others. His expertise will help our community catch the vision and streamline our efforts. Second, we're also planning to host a faith and housing summit this spring. We will learn from others in Indiana who have figured out ways to leverage their faith and influence to provide housing for those who need it most. So stay tuned for details on those next steps. As I look at Greater Lafayette and our efforts to address homelessness, I think of a puzzle. There are many different agencies and individuals who have a piece of the puzzle. And if I stare myopically at my own piece and care only about this piece and want to protect this piece, and I don't see how it fits into the larger whole, then I'm probably not going to be very effective in this whole effort to end homelessness. So this session today aims to highlight the various pieces of the homelessness solutions puzzle that we already have and how they are working together, how they're fitting together. But we also aim to show some of the pieces that we're still lacking, or at least we're lacking the vision on how those things could fit together. As you can see from this chart, it shows the overall trend in homelessness in Greater Lafayette in the past 8 years. Things are not headed in a good direction. There are many of us in this room who are doing all we can to provide shelter, food, mental health resources, recovery resources, employment opportunities, housing, clothes, whatever else is needed to help people move out of homelessness. It's not a lack of effort that we see, but our local systems are consistently maxed out. Think of LTHC, YWCA, Family Shelter, LUM, and of our emergency room. This is the first step out of homelessness. Emergency shelter overnight. All of these places have been full for quite a while. And the need, as you can see from the chart, continues to grow. So we're at a moment where we have to think even bigger about long-term sustainable solutions to homelessness. As an overview for the rest of our time together, Adam Murphy is going to come and share about the history of homeless services in Greater Lafayette. I think it's good to know, you can come on up, Adam. And as I call the rest of these names, feel free to come on up. It's good to know where we've been so we can know where we are and better know where to go next. Jennifer Layton will share about current services and initiatives. Mason McConnell Curry will share about homelessness prevention and intervention. Jen Million will share about current housing stability initiatives. Yeah, you can just have a seat there for now. And again, we're going to see how these various pieces of the puzzle are fitting together. Then we'll have a Q&A time with a panel of local experts and practitioners, and we'll say a little more about that when we get to that time. We'll challenge you to consider signing a pledge to form a Greater Lafayette task force on homelessness. And finally, we'll have some pizza and a time to have some further conversation. So Adam, please talk us through the history of homeless services in Greater Lafayette. Thank you.
So my name is Adam Murphy. I work for the Lafayette Police Department. And usually you hit a career milestone when someone says, come up here and talk about the history of what all we've been doing. Yeah, that's right. Others could tell this history in real time better than I could. But you see on the screen the previous slide, every January our community, along with the whole country, sets out to count people that are unhoused. It's a snapshot in time, it's a one night out of the year, The numbers don't tell everything, but over time they can tell a story. And 15 years ago, our region counted 163 people as homeless. So what I want to talk about is not necessarily history. Let's think more about context. And I think there's three things you can take away from the context of our recent history, certainly since 15 years ago. The efforts on the timeline on the screen, previous screen, illustrate that, first of all, we have a history of not sitting idly by while members of this community suffer. Consider the many interventions that we've had, past, current, and hopefully future. The way it used to be 15 years ago, there was a day shelter at MHA, there was a night shelter at LUM, there was LTHC for the transitional housing services that they provided, and a family shelter at the Salvation Army and the YWCA. We also have a history of coming together to talk about what's working and what's not working. Those PIT numbers, those point-in-time numbers from 2010 to 2013 started to spike. And there was a concern. We have a lot of services, but are we really coordinated? What's the next step for us? And so as a result, 130 people representing 50 agencies with a core engineering group of 12 people, sponsored by the United Way, the cities of Lafayette and West Lafayette and the county, decided to come together with a goal in mind. Could we create a plan to end chronic homelessness in 10 years? We were going for functional zero. Functional zero is when your community, it's not that you have zero homeless, but there's a place for everyone homeless to be. And those that are homeless are known by name, and service providers strategize on how to get those folks moved from where they are into something stable. A number of initiatives came from that community effort. That's when we started coordinated entry. That's a triage and direct referral process for all homeless services. There's always a place to go to get an answer, and when you get that answer, then you can be referred to exactly where you need to be. The LTHC Engagement Center was a part of that discussion in 2012. It's a place for everyone to go to get help with 40 units of housing up above. There was permanent supportive housing and Housing First initiatives created more than 100 units in the community, including 28 from the city of Lafayette and 70 plus from LTHC, MHA, and others. We also first started talking about peer-based supports for recovery and mental health. And so the follow-up work that was done in the community in 2015 with the Mental Health Forum, in 2018 with the Opioid Task Force, now called the Tippecanoe County Recovery and Resiliency Network, created things like the MHA Mental Health Navigators and Peers, Valley Oaks and Phoenix coming together for the Haven and the QRT Overdose Follow-Up Team, the NAMI Living Room and Landing, a safe place to be amongst peers, the Hive Recovery Hub, formerly known as the Recovery Cafe, a place amongst peers to find community. We came up with those ideas, we worked towards those ideas, we supported those ideas together. And so now, we see the numbers rise again from 2013. The total number of homeless persons in Tippecanoe County has more than doubled since COVID. More than a third of our homeless are not staying overnight in a program. They're outdoors. They're in cars, they're on porches, they're in abandoned buildings and sheds. And then more than 1/4 of them are over the age of 55, which is the threshold for most senior housing. There are bright spots. Our veteran homeless numbers remain at levels from 10 years ago thanks to expanded programming and a ton of federal support. But overall, we're looking at homeless numbers that have increased in the last 5 years in excess of what we've ever counted before. But that leads me to the last point. We have a history of working together to fix problems. That's what the pledge is going to be about tonight at the end. So some people ask, well, are you talking about the good old days when we had fewer persons that were homeless? Let's go back to the good old days. And I would say no. Today is actually the good old days. We have more resources, we have more partners, we have more people working on this issue than ever before. Imagine if we weren't coordinated, what the numbers would look like. We have more tools, we have a wider palette of services, there's much more collaboration, but we have work to do. Now, the following speakers are going to talk about what we're doing now, and I just encourage you, as you hear and considering the past, are we still going to be working together, and what more could we do together?
Thank you, Adam. I am glad that it was you to give the history of that, because I feel like I'm usually the token person. I'm Jennifer Layton. I've been in this work for over 3 decades, and so I'm here today just sort of lay the groundwork about who we are and what we're doing as a community, as a safety net when it comes to homeless services. I am the LTHC president and CEO, where I've been forever, but we have intentional programming that is only for people that are experiencing homelessness. And so in my tenure, it has remained the mission and the vision of our organization to end homelessness for all human beings. We don't care who they are, we don't care what they've got going on, but how can we provide financial assistance, resources, and housing efforts coupled with partnerships and relationships to not only help people end their homelessness, but to stay housed. And so in order to do that, you'll see on the screen, these are the variety of services that LTHC actually provides. So we have a 24/7 engagement center. The engagement center is there to help people manage their homelessness. So we're not ending it. We're doing assessments. We're getting people their critical documents. We're helping them go through all the rigmarole. But what we don't have is enough affordable housing, friends. So people stay in the services at LTHC for way too long. But while they're managing that, we have showers and restrooms and laundry and meals and caseworkers all trying to coordinate efforts and get them assessed and realize what barriers and documentation and things that programs for which people could be eligible for. We have an emergency shelter on site, we have interim housing on site, and we have medical respite space on site. So we have a lot of things that are going on there at the Engagement Center, and this, just as a reminder, opened on January 18th, 2020, 6 weeks before you know what happened in our community. Because of that location and because of the network of organizations and supports that we bring on site under one roof, we were able to survive COVID. Because when it first really came to fruition, we thought really everybody that was experiencing homelessness would die from COVID. We were all given the shelter-in-place order. People didn't have homes, so they were the ones that were left out. Outside of the Engagement Center, we also do rapid rehousing. We have veteran services programs. We have our permanent supportive housing projects, and we have our rural homeless outreach. I did meet the guy from Fountain County. Raise your hand, sir. I don't remember your name. There he is. Okay, hello. Yep, sorry, Bobby. But those are all intentional programs to help throw a wider net. Like, we need to provide some housing programs for people. We can manage people's homelessness, but our goal, our mission, our vision at LTHC is to end it. And so those are the housing programs that we currently provide. And I will say that all of these housing programs are currently federally funded for the most part, and they are all at risk of losing all of their funding. Next, please. Yeah. So then together as a continuum, we work as the safety net. So my partners at Lafayette Urban Ministry, they have 2 specific programs to help people that are experiencing homelessness. They have their emergency shelter that's been open since 1984, currently has 48 beds, and they provide this emergency shelter for single men and women. They work very closely with my staff that also provides shelter to make sure that every human being has an opportunity to stay in shelter. They have to be at least 18 years old, be Tippecanoe County residents. They do have meals and shower services. Now, from November to April, they also open up their winter warming station. And so this is a separate site location at their shelter where it's available to any human being that needs a safe place to go. There's 50 mats at that location. Those 2 have been at capacity for many, many nights. So all of these programs are over capacity. Next, please. The YWCA Emergency Shelter provides a safe space for survivors of violence. They are open 24/7. They have a crisis line, and case advocates working with folks to try to connect them to services, care, and ultimately housing. They have 9 rooms with 30 beds. They've got bathrooms, showers. If you haven't seen the shelter, please contact our friends at the YWCA. Go over and see their space. They're still here. They might not be in that old building. You can't play racquetball or swim in the pool, but they're certainly still providing critical resources to survivors. So please, don't forget they're here. They also have all kinds of things that are happening in order to connect people to services. They have rapid rehousing funding, Fresh Start funding. Those are all rental subsidies. Again, most of the rental subsidies, friends, are on the chopping block federally. Just something to keep in mind. And they also have child and court advocates and legal advocacy. They've got a lot going on. Their employment assistance program, really wrapping around survivors of violence, connecting them to the services that they need the most. And then the final is our family emergency shelter. So this is the Greater Lafayette Family Shelter. Some of you may know it as Family Promise. That is a national affiliation that they are no longer affiliated with. So they've rebranded to be called the Greater Lafayette Family Shelter. They've been around since 2009. Their physical facility opened in 2018. So their physical building is located over by the North End Community Center. They're off of Elmwood. Elmwood? Yep, Elmwood. But before that, it used to be the model where they would, faith-based friends would host families for 1 week at a time, and the families would have to transport to different locations. They have they've got 6 shelter rooms, 5 are for families, 1 is for their overnight guest taker, something. I don't know, anyway. They've got 36 beds, so it really depends on the makeup of the family and how many people are in their units. They have private rooms, they've got bathrooms with showers, they've got a community kitchen. They also do case management, provide housing support. They're based on helping the families. So together, the 4 of us do create a safety net, but our safety net is overflowing. So that's why it's critical that we talk to you all today about we're creating a net, but we need to get people out of the net. We need to get people into affordable housing solutions. Thank you.
All right, my name is Mason. I'm the Homeless Services Director at Lafayette Urban Ministry. And I'm also, last year, I was the chair of the Homelessness Prevention Intervention Network that we have here in Lafayette. This year, I'm co-chair. And I am going to be relying a lot on this because I'm squinting, but I don't have my contacts in, and I can't read that version back there. So the Homelessness Prevention and Intervention Network unites local organizations to prevent and end homelessness in Tippecanoe County. One of the main things we do is keep services connected because as anyone who's experienced difficulty knows, it can be a full-time job trying to find assistance. So one of the most important things that we do is stay connected with each other. So in the event that someone comes to LTHC or to LUM or to Greater Lafayette Family Shelter and we're not the right fit for them or we can't meet their need, we know who can. And we can send them right there to get help right away. We have monthly meetings where different organizations present what might be new or different in their organization. And we really try to make sure that our services are strongly interconnected in Greater Lafayette. Next slide, please. And I can read, and everything's fine. We do have different programs for people who might not be connected to services in a traditional way. So you don't have to come directly into one of our services to receive homeless services in Greater Lafayette. We have a street team comprised of mental health providers and local law enforcement who goes out to those people who are living outside, can do an intake, get them on the list for housing, and can make immediate plans for where are you going to stay tonight, what do you need right now, as well as long-term plans, what services are you going to go to get the help that you need to move towards housing. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Jen.
So the affordability crisis that is kind of exacerbating the homelessness problem isn't new. It's been around for several years now, but what we notice is it's continuing to increase and we're not able to keep pace. So we're just seeing things get tougher and tougher. Last year in April, we convened the community around some housing conversations. We focused on a few different topics related to housing, homeownership opportunities, evictions, substandard housing, and from there we consolidated a report that kind of told us what people were saying were the challenges, what were some possible solutions, and how to prioritize what we were going to do. So from there, we created a few different task forces. One is focused on housing stability. Just, you can't talk about housing stability without talking about the most vulnerable people in that group, which is people that are unhoused. So obviously we're looking at that, but there's a lot of other people that are on the verge of homelessness. So all of that is being discussed, trying to stabilize families in our community. The other was substandard housing. So we know that there are people that are living in conditions that are subpar in our community. So trying to streamline services, let people know kind of how they can improve their living situations and what their rights are. And then increasing supply and affordability. We also have a task force on messaging and communications, just trying to inform the community what resources are available, what the coalition is doing, how they can get engaged, and just try to help people like you in this room and people that aren't in this room, how they can get involved, why this is important, and who it's impacting. We have this report as well as the notes from all of our conversations on United Way's website. And if you're interested in joining in the task force, I encourage you to go and indicate that interest, and we'll get you engaged in that way. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm cutting in line. Can you go back 2 slides, Pablo? So I just wanted to touch on the Coordinated Homeless Response Team. So down in Indianapolis, they call it the Streets to Indy work. And this is where they've got concerted efforts and partners that come together to really walk the streets and connect people to care. We call it our Coordinated Homeless Response Team. And so anybody that's on the Coordinated Homeless Response Team, please stand up. So these are folks that meet at LTHC every other week or on Zoom, or they literally go line by line, name by name, talking about human beings that are experiencing homelessness and looking at solutions and housing solutions for each person. I just wanted to make sure we called that out because that's a really, really important part of the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you all. I hope you get some encouragement, just looking at the different pieces of the puzzle, the history, where we're at. I am very proud and grateful to be part of a community where there is so much collaboration. There is just a real spirit of, hey, I don't have to own it. I don't have to get the credit for it. I just want to see things happen, and I'm extremely grateful for that. We're going to move into our panel discussion. So if you know you're on the panel, and Marie Morse, I told you you weren't on the panel, but you are. So if you come up here, so we've got, State Representative Chris Campbell, State Senator Spencer Deery, Tippecanoe County Sheriff Robert Goldsmith, LTHC Homeless Services Jennifer Layton, United Way Jennifer Million, Homestead Resources Marie Morse, City of Lafayette Mayor Tony Roswarski. And I see West Lafayette Mayor here. Would you like to be on the panel? Or you, no, I would like you to be. I will grab you a chair. You guys can just share a chair. No, I'm just. we got it. Thank you, Steve Johnson, for jumping up there. So before we get into the panel and the Q&A, I wanted to let you know that the slides that we are seeing are going to be available on the Beyond the Bridge webpage. And shout out to Pablo Malavenda for putting all those slides together and really running point on this whole event. So, yeah. And a video of this entire program will be available on the LUM YouTube channel, thanks to Joshua Lawling. Josh is volunteering his time and skills here. So, JWL Story Alchemist, thank you for your work. So for the panel, we've got a couple different mics here. I'll hand them to you in just a second. I just want you to introduce yourself, your name, your agency you're representing. For the audience, I would like you to raise your hand. If you have a question, we'll come to you with one of these mics. And then when you're called on, just stand up, say your name, and ask your question. And either somebody from the panel will answer, or we have a star-studded front row here of others that could also answer questions. So Jennifer Layton, will you reintroduce yourself, and we'll just move down that way.
I'm over 50. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jennifer Layton. I'm the president and CEO of LTHC Homeless Services.
I'm also over 50, and I'm Bob Goldsmith, your Tippecanoe County Sheriff.
Jen Million, Chief Operating Officer at United Way.
Chris Campbell, State Representative, District 26, which covers West Lafayette, west to the county line.
A new one. Marie Morse, Executive Director for Homestead Resources.
Hi everyone, State Senator Spencer Deery, and I have to apologize too. I have a son who's a 6th grader, and it's his 2nd band concert, so it's still when it's kind of really important to him. It starts at 6 at Battleground, so I'm really only going to be able to be here for about another maybe 7 to 10 minutes. But I wanted to come and offer the support that I could. You got my picture, so no, I'm just kidding. No, but I just apologize about that. But I'm grateful for what you're doing and want to participate as much as I could.
I'm Tony Roswarski, the mayor of Lafayette.
And I'm Erin Easter, the mayor of West Lafayette.
So we'll open it up for questions. If somebody has a question. Oh, we've got a mic already there. Great.
Oh, great, thanks. So my name's Ed Dunn, and I have a question about how does the state criminalization of homelessness affect Lafayette? Hey, might as well get it out now, shouldn't we? And move on.
Yes.
Representative Campbell, it seems like your expertise.
I think so many of us were. Jennifer was down there testifying against it. Bob came down, talked to the Speaker of the House, who was, this was a priority bill for him. So, yeah, we managed to not pass it last year, but this year it went in. And, yeah, we had testimony that said there were 400 arrests in Kentucky after this passed. I testified in opposition to the bill, and what I never heard when the authors were questioned was, when are they housed? At what point is the unhoused person housed? So yes, I think.
Sorry, you done? And I'll jump in there, and I voted against it as well both times that it came to the Senate. And I will say that Senator Carrasco, I think, is really coming from a good place. She really means well. And the reason I mention that is not to excuse the effort, but I think that always creates opportunities where if things are not going the way that she intends it, that I think that there's opportunities to correct and refine. For me, my biggest concern is I don't want our jails to be the place where we treat mental illness. And that's my biggest concern with the bill, is that could happen. The bill is, I think, significantly improved from where it was last year. I guess that bill, I don't know if it's law, I should probably start saying now. Now, I think there's some opportunity, though, to continue to work on that as if it doesn't pan out the way that she envisions. So just make that point.
Anyone else want to make a comment? Yeah, Sheriff Goldsmith.
I will say also that I'm on the policy committee on some state organizations, and we talk a lot about mental health, which is absolutely an issue, but it's affordability of housing too. People just cannot afford to live in our community right now, and so that's not really addressed with this. And I think everybody up here that I know, was not in support of criminalizing homelessness. But we need to look at the bigger picture. There's more than just mental health issues or addiction issues. There's also affordability issues.
Go ahead, Oh, we have one more comment. Don, hold on just a second, sorry, and then we'll get to you. Thank you.
Now, for me, yes, I was down there quite a bit and on the phone a lot, and I don't agree with it. I don't know of any officers that do. I'm sure there are some out there that do agree with it. But as mentioned in everything that's on the screen, Lafayette, Tippecanoe County in general is doing great things. There's a lot of great services here, and then the state throws a curveball, and now there's a criminal aspect at the end. I have a lot of trust in the Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Purdue Police Departments that their leadership will have conversations with their officers about how to handle these things, and I trust that they will do them in the most professional way that they possibly can. In the event that they do end up in our facility, one of the things I spoke on the last day at the state in the speaker's office was, it's a misdemeanor. They're going to be in and out before the report's ever done, huh? 60 days. Well, but it being a misdemeanor, it'll be a book in, book out. If they end up getting a warrant, they'll be in there a little bit longer. So there is a possibility they could be in there quite a bit, but the reality of it filling up the jail quickly, I don't think will happen. But what I think we need to do is keep the communication lines open with all the service providers and our jail, so we can get them connected to the services that they need. Because unfortunately, reality is when they step out the door and they leave, somebody's taken their place and we've moved on. But I'm very confident in the team that I have and the team that this community has that these people won't be forgotten, so hopefully we can do everything they can so they're no longer unhoused. And I'm confident, I'm only here for 9 more months. I'm confident the next sheriff will absolutely take this and run with it, and he'll do the best job that he possibly can as well.
All right, Mayor?
Yeah, I'd want to just add a little bit. We always look for a solution and a way to help. Adam and Amanda, most all of you know them, and Nora. We've got a 3-person team working because we know putting somebody in jail for a situation they found something is not the answer, and it's not just the right thing to do in the way that we should treat each other. And so we invest a lot of money in trying to make sure that doesn't happen by having people that literally that's their job every day, both of them, making sure that we can try to find people resources and then all the different response teams that they work with, so we don't have to do that. And it's not always easy because sometimes folks are nervous about even letting us help them, but over time you can build those relationships, and we go backwards when the answer is just put somebody in jail and then try to build a relationship and try to find a solution. We're moving in the wrong direction when we're doing those things. And so I like Bob, I'm confident in our community and everybody that will be working together on this, that we'll find much better alternatives than that for handling those problems.
Yeah.
And I guess to add on to what he's saying, and one of the things I spoke of at the State House was one thing that I don't believe was considered by those that were making the decisions is we're possibly taking a lot of people that were never in the criminal justice system, and we're introducing them into a system that is completely foreign to them, and we're victimizing them again. Because if you talk to those that have been in jail, we have our jail rules, but those that are incarcerated have their own set of rules, and they're a lot more strict on each other. And when you take somebody that has been on the streets or living in their car on a porch, they're unhoused, they're at a different level when they come in, and they don't have the same resources of those that have already been there for a while, or they're used to the system. So they become a victim all over again. It's just, exactly. Those are the things that weren't considered that really, it all bugged me, but that really struck me. So again, it's going to come down to communication. When communication stops, then we don't proceed. So I'm very confident that this community will communicate, and we will proceed and do everything we can to fix this.
All right, thank you. Don, would you mind standing up and saying your name and stating your question?
Yes, Dawn Baldwin. My question is for Chris and Spencer. Last year we killed the bill, and there was supposed to be a task force formed because they didn't believe the numbers that the professionals and experts were giving them on homelessness. How come that task force never happened?
I don't know that I have any insights in that. The only thing I can say is just, the legislative process is individuals can introduce bills and advocate for them, and some individuals decided that was the route they wanted to go. But I don't know anything about the task force. Do you, Chris?
Yeah, so it's kind of up to the leaders to decide what goes to an interim committee study, and there's a process where that occurs. If there was a bill that required a task force to be created and to happen, it would have to happen. But I don't believe anything passed that said they had to have a task force.
I think it went to Mike Braun's hands. But the other thing I wanted to mention, I'm formerly homeless, and what the sheriff was talking about, being homeless and thrown into the jail. One night, for example, I have schizoaffective disorder as well as a lot of other mental health issues, and I was staying at the Lum Night Shelter, but it was down hours. The transitional housing wasn't open, so I was waiting for the night shelter to open. So I had to take a handful of my night pills before I entered the shelter. Someone called. The officer said a lady called and said you were having problems getting across the street. So the officers just handcuffed me and took me to jail. No breathalyzer, no blood draw. Just threw me in jail without my meds, anything. It was horrific. It was horrific. And so I got a PI, which eventually got dismissed, but it's still on my record. And so when I went to go get housing, that was on my record, which created an issue for housing because I didn't get to choose anywhere I wanted to go. I had to find, as I've said before, a compassionate landlord that would work with me considering my criminal history. So this bill can really affect the housing, getting the homeless housed.
Dawn, I just wanted to thank you for always sharing your story. You're a real asset to the community. Your lived experiences and being in the media and being here and down there is really has been really helpful to tell that story. So I just ask you to continue to do so, and don't feel like just because that bill passed that your story shouldn't still be told. So please continue to tell that. And with that, I just need to apologize. I got to get to that band concert. So thank you, everybody, for understanding.
Have a question?
Yeah, Sheila Rosenthal. And I thought if we could talk about the affordability and what we maybe have learned from other cities. I know there are things, there are projects going on. I wasn't here in November, but I watched the video of it, and Mayor Roswarski talked about some of those projects. I know West Lafayette has done some, has put efforts toward dealing with it, but what more can we do than we are doing?
So what more can we do for affordable housing? What have we learned from other cities that are seeing some success in that area? That's for whoever wants to, I mean, that's a big one.
I mean, we've talked about this a little bit before, and some communities have had success where they've been able to bring in some private dollars. It's very hard to do with just having the government do it. And with without repeating myself, and Jennifer and Marie know the numbers even better than I do, but some of the projects we talked about just recently, McCarty Hope, and Jennifer, you don't let me make a mistake here. I don't know what the total number is up on that to house those 26 people. The city just committed to putting in another $1 million into the project.
For your road.
Huh?
For your road, yes, you did.
Right,
Thank you.
and there's $2 million of home art funds in there, and $500,000 of home art funds. But just to give the people idea, what's the total number?
It's almost a $7 million project,
Yeah.
and I'm still short $345,000, and I'm on year 4 now trying to put this together.
Right.
26 units that prioritize senior citizens and veterans.
So
that's why. It's hard.
It's hard. $7 million to house 26 people. I mean, that is the challenge. And I know the number for the Jeffersonian to house 50 people was how much? 14 million to house 50 people. So that's the challenge that we're facing. And there is so many people that are working together to get the numbers to all work out in so many different ways. But that's the biggest piece. And one of the things that we're trying to do now, and I know this is an answer for a long term down the road, the city of Lafayette is starting a land trust where we're going to begin to own land, buy land, put it into a trust, so when you get the house on the trust, and I'm probably not explaining it all correctly because we've got lawyers doing it, the cost of the land is not in the cost of the house anymore. And so that drives down the cost of the house, and then it has to stay affordable. There is provisions in there that it has to stay affordable. So Dennis Carson has been working on that, and we're just about ready to wrap that up, and we've got the first $100,000 or so in the kitty there, so to speak, to try to hope to be able to start getting some of those parcels of land where that land cost won't be in the cost of the house, and the home has to stay affordable. So it's going to take a while to build that up, but it's another one of those things that we are trying to do, thinking outside of the box a little bit for us in our area. There's land trust in other parts of the country. I don't think it's ever been tried around here to see if that can help put a dent in it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jen.
So I was just going to share, obviously, number one solution is to create some more affordable housing units. Like Tony said, that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of money, that takes all kinds of different investments, where it be public, private. We shared some data at the April conversations that showed just kind of how, from a rental standpoint, how many units have been lost over time. You know, how we lost so many $800 a month units, and now they're $1,400 a month units. And we know that, you know, wages have not gone up quite at the same pace, and so there's just a cycle. And so while the city and other investors are working to, you know, create some more affordable housing units, one of the things that the Housing Solutions Coalition is doing is looking at some kind of creative solutions to bridge that gap of affordability for people, using some of the existing stock, for instance, creating some education for small developers, creating a landlord incentive fund so that we're building relationships with landlords and they're willing to take some of these clients that maybe they wouldn't normally take because we're, you know, bringing things to the table that haven't been brought before. So we are looking as that coalition at some creative solutions, but you know, we can't build our way out of it, but that, you know, having more affordable units obviously would help, but that's not the only solution, and so we're working collectively as a community to be creative.
Several years ago, we had New Chauncey Housing in the city of West Lafayette, which is a huge partner for us at the time, to find houses in our historic neighborhood, to rehab those houses, so to keep them in good standing for the adjacent property owners as well. And they were also income qualified housing, owner occupied. And that was a really important program for the city of West Lafayette. It has nearly been a decade since we were able to accomplish one of those houses in the city. Cost is one of the primary factors, especially in the neighborhoods where we could do this work. We are seeing a lot of competition for housing for student housing, which garners a decent amount of rent and is much harder to get back into kind of a private home ownership situation. So that has been an ongoing struggle for us as we also try to increase housing capacity. Just last year, I think I mentioned this number not too terribly long ago, we had $670 million in construction permits pulled last year in the city of West Lafayette, and the vast majority of that was housing. We are still going to have an issue with housing once all of those housing units are built, and we've been tracking, at least from a rental perspective, what that looks like. We are just struggling to have enough housing, period. And then we are actively looking for partners who can help us with community development housing organizations to help us accomplish the work that we were doing in New Chauncey and across the city in income qualified neighborhoods.
At the state level, the past couple years, there have been a couple really important housing bills. They were builder driven, I would say. One of them, House Bill 1005, a few years ago passed, and it created funding that local units could borrow and put in infrastructure to help bring down costs for builders. And then, of course, the city or unit that borrowed the money would use tax dollars to pay that money back. Also, they would also be able to create residential increment financing where the builder is buying or building housing, and then that money that comes from that property tax would be able to be reinvested into that, bringing down the cost. This past year, House Bill 1001 passed, and it also was taking away some requirements and kind of forcing our local units to have to pass ordinances if they didn't want these things to happen in their communities. I know, or override local ordinances. Like the local unit would not be able to prevent certain types of housing from going in, like accessory dwelling units, which I know West Lafayette just had rejected. And one of the issues is, there's not really a one-size-fits-all. Of course, when you're talking about trying to put in like an accessory dwelling unit in West Lafayette, you're going to run into things like parking or traffic issues. And I think that taking away the local unit's ability to make decisions, or also just removing certain requirements. I know one of the bills, and I'm not sure if it was that one, removed the requirement, which they've been trying to do for a couple years, removing these circuit breakers from being required to be put in new units. One of the arguments is that it's more necessary for older housing, which is really not the case. It prevents fires in homes. They're not very expensive. They're maybe $75 a unit, yet the builders said they add $5,000 to the cost of housing. And one of the things I've seen is, even though we keep changing the ordinances or our state building codes to make it less expensive to build, our building codes have not been updated since 2013 using 2012 codes. Again, the builders come in and say, well, this is going to add a lot of cost to our building. But then, I'm hearing from apartment owners who are paying luxury apartment rentals, and they're telling me that their floors are sagging, their walls are paper thin, their plumbing and their heating don't work, or just units are not well insulated. So what I have seen is we keep passing bills to bring down the cost of building, but I'm not seeing a lot of that savings going on to those people renting or buying housing. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh, we have a question there and then one here.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I mention one thing?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Marie.
I'm glad you mentioned that nothing that's been passed by the state has any requirement that money that's saved gets passed on to the homeowner or the renter. It simply doesn't. Now, maybe our developers need more money. I don't know, but let's just call it like it is. And so, and also, we're also very concerned about what Chris just said about the quality of the houses that are going to be built. I've been around for even longer than Jen, but so I've seen, subdivisions go up that have not been able to maintain their repairs, that they fall apart within a couple years, and we don't want to see that again. So there has been, I'm Prosperity Indiana, I'm on their board, that's a statewide organization. We did send a letter with over 700 organizations signing on to both governors, the prior governor and this governor, asking for a housing task force that is actually made up of people other than just developers. We are getting no response from that, but that is something everyone here can do. They can email the governor and say, we need that housing task force. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, my question is a simple one. We saw a slide, one of the first slides, in fact, and it showed a really marked increase in homelessness from 2024. And I wondered if any of you can answer what were the drivers from that time. See, right around 2024, it just goes up incredibly.
Honestly, I would tell you that the lack of affordable housing, people are simply priced out of housing. We at LTHC are certainly see an exorbitant amount of people that are on fixed income, senior citizens. They're getting Social Security or retirement. They don't have enough money monthly to pay for the rent anymore. The Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission did just publish their 2025 housing report. So it does show over the last few years just how the rents have continued to increase. So people are just simply priced out of housing, and then they're landing in homelessness.
Lindsay, Stephen, or Mason, anything you want to add on that? You guys are on the front lines. We'll get you. I didn't hear what you said. Go ahead.
So Lindsay was just noticing, mentioning that we don't have the American Rescue Plan funds, from COVID. Like those were a pivotal part of helping us continue housing payments for people, and those are gone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Mason has something to say, and then
I think the other thing that's happening here is we have so many more resources than the communities around us. Jennifer could add to this or tell me I'm wrong, but I also believe that you will have other sheriff's departments, police departments bringing people to this community simply because they don't have the resources there, so they give them a ride. And I know, talked to some, when I worked in Clinton County many years ago, there'd be times we'd get called out to the interstate and find out somebody from a sheriff's department north of there dropped them off, so I would put them in my car and bring them back. So that's the other thing, leadership has to communicate. But I think a lot of times some of those numbers have to be reflective of people being dropped off here because of so many services, and then they call this place home, so I think that may have a lot to do with the spike as well. But I could be wrong.
And I will also mention that a lot of the money that we had for mortgage foreclosures, for rental assistance, that's all gone. So I am, and my organization works on preventing homelessness. I am very concerned about how much those numbers are going to go up because of that.
And I will push back a little bit, Bob. So just my whole career, I've heard about people are shipping people to Lafayette because we have such great services. And that's just not the case. In every community that has some services, you always get that kind of community feedback. Now, certainly there are people in Clinton County, there are no shelters there. Do they come to Tippecanoe? Yes, but these are they're in our region. So we don't have walls up, friends, like if you're actually unhoused. And so that's not really a thing. Like that's not a reason to kind of look at those numbers that they're increasing. I did want to point out, I did a joint comparison for all 4 homeless shelters to really think about the number of people that we've been serving since 2019. Altogether, we've served 7,388 different people. So while I appreciate the number on the screen, that's one point in time, the last Wednesday of the month in January. So, and those are showing your unsheltered folks. So this is 7,388 neighbors have come through LTHC, Greater Lafayette Family Shelter, and the YWCA seeking affordable housing solutions. That's not okay.
Mason?
Okay, this is on Yay. I have like a few things I started with. I wanted to chime in with sort of an illustration of the severity of the housing affordability crisis that we're in right now. The United Way and Prosperity Indiana put together some beautiful numbers for us last year that were very horrifying. So when we talk about income levels, there's low income, there's very low income, and extremely low income. And Jen, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but what I recall from the housing conversations that we started last spring are that for the very low income portion of our community, for every 100 families, there are about 64 affordable and available units. When you go lower, when you go down to extremely low income, the poorest of the poor in our community, for every 100 households, there are 14 affordable and available units. So when you think about how rent burdened people become, how little of a safety net there is in their personal finances for that, it becomes very clear where that spike is coming from. And the other thing, I'll just chime in as well on whether people are being shipped in. Two things. Whether or not that's happening, I would love so much if Lafayette became a place where if you end up here, we take care of you. And that is what we strive for, and that's one of our goals. Another thing that I'll express, I've been in this job for about 2 years, and one of the very first things that happened to me is I was signing somebody up for the shelter. She handed me her ID, and she'd been evicted from the apartment directly above me about 2 months before she appeared at the shelter. I had just moved into my apartment. If I had moved in any earlier, she would have been my neighbor, and she became my client. So I love our community very much. I love all the services we have here, and if people send people here hoping or thinking that they'll be taken care of, I think that's an asset that we have. And my goal personally would be to build our services and our community so that we can take care of those people.
Thank you.
So to clarify on the shipping, I would say law enforcement here. So if somebody's homeless or unhoused on Walnut Street in Frankfort, that is not a Lafayette Police Department situation. So that's what I'm meaning by that statement. So I understand and applaud you for everything you do for everyone. That's what I'm referring to as law enforcement.
A question in the back? Yep.
Christopher Shalafu, and I do come in the name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, as many of you may have. My question is, what is the driving forces that are cutting those funds that have been brought up, that the driving force that's putting those funds on the chopping block? Because I have a vote and I have a voice. So I'd like to know, and maybe everybody else would too.
Yeah, please say it loud in the back. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development is a federal funded entity under the government, and they have for many, many years had federal policy that believed in what's called Housing First, and that is to provide funding and resources for rapid rehousing where we can financially assist people to get them into their own permanent housing with a landlord, paying for deposits, rent for a couple months, providing care resources, helping people up and on their way. Also provided financial assistance for permanent supportive housing. So we're providing for care, we're providing for resources, and we're paying for rent for people. These are permanent housing solutions. Well, HUD continues to see people experiencing homelessness. So clearly this is the problem, that we don't have, it's not a housing issue apparently, it is a public safety issue. And so they're going to be redirecting their funds. LTHC specifically, we receive around $2 million a year to actually go to pay for housing for people that are experiencing homelessness. And really, they do see that it's a much better fit that people have to do treatment first while they're unhoused before they can qualify to get into housing solutions. And so it's really a very antiquated way to think about ways to end homelessness for people. Those of us that have been practitioners in this work for a long time, we've already been there, done that, seen it fail. But now these are new folks coming to the table with new solutions, similar to my friends at the State House that have zero expertise or knowledge about the population, that just make very uninformed decisions about funding. So you asked. And if we weren't in a church, I'd give you different reasons.
Amen. Amen. Yes, my name is Larry Hobble, and I'm one of the pastors at the Word of Life Fellowship Church. My thing is that I hear y'all talk about shelter, permanent shelter. My thing is emergency shelter. And we live in the neighborhood we live in, we're real close to the housing, period. Lafayette Transit Housing is a walking distance from my house and everything. And we have a lot of homeless people that come come through our backyard, and there's a barn on the left-hand side is where they kind of get in and out of the rain and stuff like that right there. And my thing is the shortage of emergency shelters. I don't know if you covered that or not, or anything like that, but I know I look at things like the Golden Corral that is empty, stuff like that, someplace where they can get in and out of the cold, period. My wife and I, we have people knocking on our doors that are homeless. We let them come in for a little bit, we feed them, and then we can't keep them there because we already got homeless in the home. Our house can only hold but so many people. and everything. But excuse me, but that's always been dear to my heart.
Thank you for caring for our unhoused neighbors, friend. Seriously.
But
that's.
So if I understand your question, it's what are the emergency shelter resources? What do we do with the people that need housing tonight?
Yes, we need more. That's why I'm asking, what are we doing about getting more for emergency?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to put it right there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, she said wait till the middle of April, because April 15th is when we will stop our winter warming station at Lafayette Urban Ministry. So now there'll be 50 mats that aren't available overnight for people. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. LUM is actively looking to expand our shelter, remodeling our first floor, hoping to expand by 30 beds. But yeah, there is a desperate need for that. We're doing the best we can with the resources we have, but I'm just looking at my community partners like we're all full. To your point, we need more.
So now let's think of what are other solutions. How can our faith-based friends come in, open up your church doors? Like we are at a critical time for human beings. They have lives at stake.
Yes, Scott.
Has there been any effort to...
You're good, Scott. I'm sorry.
...multiply what this gentleman was sharing, to develop a program where people who care say, I would be willing to shelter a person at my home overnight? Has there been any attempt?
I've never heard anybody say that out loud.
Yeah.
Well, that's come to my mind, okay?
I got a card in my pocket. That's it.
Well, I've actually done it and would be willing to do it again.
Wow.
Okay, I know that the person that I housed, I knew them before I housed them, their situation, right? And I know that could be a little more scary to do for somebody you've never met. You don't know, is the person on drugs or whatever. So I think there would need to be a process, obviously, for this kind of care. But maybe it's a person that's been coming to you frequently. You go, hey, this person has a good head on their shoulders. They're just in a rough situation. We've done the background check, everything. We feel comfortable to offer this person toward a local citizen who has an open heart, open space, to take them for a period of time.
Yes, right here. Go ahead. You're good.
All right. Hi, my name is Amelia Angelone, and I'm an editor with the Purdue Exponent. One thing that I wonder about, West Lafayette and Lafayette are very unique in that our community is very circled around campus, if that makes sense. How does that affect housing? Like, does the university impact the availability of people in West Lafayette and Lafayette to be able to have housing?
Absolutely. When you have a set amount of houses and your population increases, that does impact your housing circumstance, regardless of what kind of housing it is. So we have slowly watched our near-campus neighborhoods convert to more rental housing instead of owner-occupied housing. It increases price because it's more scarce. So we're talking about organizations that have something that's more desirable and can charge more for it. And we also have a circumstance where students are often considered part of their family's household, so they are ineligible for federal assistance. So all of those things from a student perspective make it really hard to provide services. In the city of West Lafayette, one of the things that our city council is endeavoring upon, and I know we might have a counselor here too, is to have a conversation about what affordable housing looks like across the city, what accessible housing looks like across the city, and look at our 2023 and 2024 housing studies to understand where we've made a measurable impact and where we need to still keep making efforts to address housing, whether that's in certain income categories or housing types. We are the most densely populated city in the state of Indiana. We do not have a lot of land, and we have a whole lot of people for every square foot of that land. So when we make housing decisions, we have to make them very carefully because it is a balance. But without question, and I think Tony can probably answer this as well, any amount of housing or any influx does have an impact. Now, that could be a business influx, that could be a university one. All of those have that effect. And if you wonder why we think about housing so much, and we focus on housing so much, and we focus on infrastructure for housing so much, it's because we have to be able to react in a relatively quick time to those housing pressures as well. And I know that the university has been endeavoring on building one recently opened and another to open this fall, I believe, dorm as well.
Just quickly, because I know we're going to be running out of time here soon, we're to sign the pledge. In Lafayette, it does affect us. It's not at the same level it affects West Lafayette, obviously. And when we study it, we get more grad students than undergrad students living in Lafayette. But over the years, I've seen a few more undergrad students in close to the near downtown proximity. I've seen that grow, but primarily for us, it's the graduate type students, but it all adds up when it comes to the amount of housing that we have. And in the city of Lafayette, we've some lots that we've used. We're down to just a minuscule number of actual housing lots to build on. Most of all where we run water and sewer now, none of that's in the city of Lafayette. It's all in Tippecanoe County. So it's not really, we're just about out of lots, period, within the city limits. And so we have tried to backtrack just a little bit, look at our system development fees to try to actually get those to go down to try to reduce the cost of housing. Again, we have some mechanism to make sure that gets passed on into the housing, but just not go into a long explanation, but that's not always easy to do too, because if you look at what it takes to expand those, and then you say, okay, we're not going to make you be any part of the $51 million we did to upgrade the sewer treatment plant. We're not going to make you be any part of all the money everybody else has paid to get rid of all the combined sewer overflows, which for us right now is about $185 million. So when you try to look at fundamental fairness to not drive up the cost of housing, but also not penalize people that's been paying for stuff for decades, get stuck with paying for it all and nothing from the new part, it's more complicated than I think people realize how to control all that to try to make that fair to everybody that's in some way paid a piece of the pie to get the system to where it is today.
I'll combine a couple of questions here. This will be our last question. I won't get to all the questions tonight. I'm sorry about that. But I'll combine a couple. Is it possible to establish a rent cap for Tippecanoe County? A landlord can only charge so much per square foot? And is there a plan to have a ratio of affordable housing to commercial, luxury, student, and personal housing? So.
Yeah, I don't think that's legal in the state of Indiana. Yeah, I think, and the state has put a lot of preemptive clauses on, even like our rental inspection programs to make them almost impossible to do. So when we're talking about safe housing, the state has already come in and 1001, I think we've preempted some of the ability for our communities to pass on or to charge certain building fees that are going to end up being picked up by taxpayers. Needless to say, I voted against that bill. Even though it said it was for affordable housing, I really didn't see a lot of potential for actually building affordable housing. None of these bills say that to get any of these benefits from the bills that you actually have to build affordable housing. As Marie mentioned earlier. So even when we've tried to put it into a bill, that a certain percentage of the housing that you build when you take advantage of these benefits, that they have to be affordable housing, those amendments don't get put into the bills.
Yep. Let's give a hand to our panelists. You guys can. In just a few minutes, we will break for pizza, and if you have questions and people are around to engage, feel free to engage further. I just want to say a couple of things. We'll watch a little video clip, and then we'll conclude here. So right now, in this very moment, is an important moment for our community. If you were here in November and watched the screening of Beyond the Bridge, there was something kind of powerful stirred within, and that momentum has continued over the past several months. And across Greater Lafayette, we're seeing mayors, leaders, social service providers, neighbors, all coming away with this realization that we care deeply about this issue and we are ready to do something about it. So, moments like this, momentum like this is rare. We don't often get opportunities for a community to assemble this puzzle together, to align our leadership, our compassion, our resources around a shared vision, a future where everyone in Greater Lafayette has a place to call home. So as we have talked about all of the wonderful resources we have to be honest about our challenges too, that housing costs are rising, that there's a limited amount of affordable units, and all too often, even some of the best efforts are happening in isolation. Great organizations doing great work, but not always connected to a unified system and vision. So when resources are fragile and systems operate separately, progress becomes difficult to sustain. But if we take our cues from other communities that were featured in the Beyond the Bridge film, there's a simple message of good news. We don't have to figure this out all by ourselves. There is a solution that's working in other communities in our nation. They've shown us what works, that real progress can happen when leaders from different sectors, housing, faith, healthcare, public safety, nonprofits, and government come together around clear goals and shared accountability. We can move from reacting to crises to building systems that prevent them. So for all these reasons, we're proposing the formation of a Greater Lafayette Task Force on Homelessness. And this task force isn't about creating another committee to manage day-to-day operations. This is about leadership, bringing together the people who can define what success looks like, identify the gaps in our current system, and ensure our community is prepared for the future. So tonight is part of that turning point. This community open forum has brought us together to listen, to learn, better understand both the challenges and opportunities before us. But conversations like this only matter if they lead somewhere. And the real work begins after we leave this room, strengthening these collaborations, aligning our efforts, continuing to build a community where everyone has a place to call home. Each of us, every one of us, has a role to play in this. We can move from concern to collaboration, from conversation to meaningful action. So for further information, let's watch this short video.
So Indianapolis at the end of 2018 launched a 5-year community plan to end homelessness. And one of the key goals in that was to really end chronic homelessness. And as we were kind of getting down that path and organizing our response system and getting everybody coordinated, we kind of realized a few things. One, we had this goal, but achieving the goal had been relegated to the homeless response system to do. This is a great goal, but we don't have the capacity and the political oomph and will to achieve this alone. And we were essentially relying solely on federal resources, which are necessary but woefully insufficient. And so we said, we need something that's going to spark more than those in the homeless response system to take ownership of this goal. This film couldn't have come at a better time because we saw the film and we said, this is the catalyst. This is what we need to get more people in the room to understand what we're trying to achieve together.
Two things we started with, we needed a lot of partners. So the first partner we were obviously going to reach out to was the city of Milwaukee.
We've had a very, very strong partnership with the county, Milwaukee County, with a lot of the agencies that provide housing or provide support. And we work closely with the police department.
First role I play is supporting Housing First and our community prosecutor.
If there was some issue that a person was facing in the criminal justice system, what we were engaging with the police department on was how to resolve that matter without rearresting somebody again.
Our officers were instructed to seek alternatives to incarceration, try to find solution-oriented ways of addressing a situation.
Warrants make it very difficult to get housing, so we clear up their warrants, help them get driver's licenses. It seemed like a natural fit for us to coordinate with the county to make this happen.
I created an outreach collaborative in the community, and so that brings together the DA, MPD, the Sheriff's Department, the Medical College, all of the outreach teams, including all of the volunteer outreach teams.
And so we plan to pack Clues Hall at Butler. Our goal was 1,000 people, and not the choir, those outside of the choir. So we made very intentional invitations to folks who don't necessarily know the work or hadn't been partners in this yet. And we put a challenge to our mayor. We said, Mayor Hogsett, we need you to stand up in front of that audience, and we need you to reaffirm the city's commitment to ending chronic and street homelessness, and then we need you to leave that room and say, within 60 days, I'm gonna set a Mayor's Leadership Council on Homelessness. All the people you saw that need to be part of this, I'm gonna bring them to that table, and we're gonna roll up our sleeves, and we're gonna get to work. And the mayor said, all right.
After seeing this film with members of my cabinet, my administration, I are feeling more emboldened than ever before to arrive at a comprehensive solution for our unhoused neighbors. This will require a well-coordinated system of key stakeholders, including influential business executives, health system leaders, key service providers, and funders, all in one room. Homelessness is solvable in Indianapolis. Let this film and this discussion this evening set the tone.
So that was last August. The Mayor's Leadership Council on Homelessness launched in October of last year, and we made a commitment to end street chronic homelessness, and all with local investment. So in July of this year, we launched phase 1, which is a commitment to house 300 to 350 people directly off the streets, out of encampments, into permanent housing with supportive services. $8.1 million initiative, all local resources, $2.7 million from the city, $2.7 million from our community foundation. Faith, corporate, and philanthropic community are raising the last $2.7 million, and the faith community has showed up big time.
We begin tonight with a bold new plan to tackle chronic homelessness here in Indianapolis.
The new Streets to Home initiative could rebuild the system. It has an $8 million budget to find permanent housing for all of the people in tents by next summer.
Philanthropy, faith-based community, and the city, and CHIP, all working together on the same initiative.
We have housed 47 people to date just since July. We've closed 3 encampments, and we are already into our 4th site, and we will continue going until 300 to 350 people are off the streets and in homes.
Wow. So that's what's happening just a few miles down the interstate from us. It can happen here. We can solve homelessness here in Greater Lafayette too. So we invite you to sign the pledge. And if you want to get the QR code, thank you again, Pablo, for putting this together. And it kind of walks you through what exactly you're signing and what we're trying to do. We also can encourage you to consider how you can continue to be involved. We mentioned those couple of next steps with James Matthew from Milwaukee coming here, the Faith and Housing Summit, which will be happening in the not too distant future. But are there things that you have, time, skill, network, effort that you can put into this vision of everyone having a home here in Greater Lafayette? So thank you again for your time today. And once you've had a moment to consider this pledge, and if you really want to overachieve, you can scan the other QR code and do an evaluation for this. That really helps us know how to keep improving. You can do that. Otherwise, come enjoy some pizza and conversation. Thank you all so much for your time.